Joining us right now is the Daily Caller editor-in-chief, Christopher Bedford. Christopher, good to see you, sir. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning.
What's going to be the outcome here for Steve Bannon? What's your take on what you just heard from Adam Schiff?
Steve Bannon's not in a very good place right now at all. He's been basically pushed out of the White House. He's been pushed out of his old company, Breitbart, and now he's trying to cite executive privilege to protect himself. And that's not uncommon in any administration, this tug of war when Congress comes after the executive to say, you know what, you don't have any right to come after me here. You have to back off. And that's going to be a tug of war that's going to play out. You know, he's probably got a point. A lot of this will fall under executive privilege, but it's still really not an enviable place to be. And we've seen him kind of putting some distance here right now. You have Reince Priebus coming out in an upcoming book, who was an ally of Bannon, saying that he was very much against the Comey firing. We'll see how it all shakes out.
You know, go ahead, James.
Oh, I was just going to ask, James Freeman here with the Journal. From what we've been told, a lot of that time with Special Counsel Mueller was focused on a potential theoretical obstruction case, which would suggest that they're still looking for collusion evidence. Is that how you read it?
That's exactly what they're supposed to be doing, but it's such a broad authority that the Mueller team's been given. They're going through banking records, and they're still looking for a collusion problem here. Here's the issue, is they've been at this for about a year, and not a single thing has shown up that shows any kind of collusion at all, especially involving Russia. And the question is going to come down to if firing, why Comey was fired. And was he fired because he was too hot on the tail of the White House, or was he fired because he wasn't a sincere player that could be counted on?
Well, this is a really important point that we're raising here, because you have reported, the Daily Caller have reported, new findings on the Department of Justice official Bruce Ohr, who provided research on President Trump to the FBI. I say research loosely. We know that there has obviously been collusion and corruption at the top of the FBI. They were protecting Hillary Clinton. They were all in the tank for Hillary, and they were creating lots of booby traps for this president. Ohr's wife was being paid by Fusion GPS. There's Bruce Ohr. Here you have the #3 guy at the Department of Justice. His wife works for Fusion GPS, the firm that wrote this unverified so-called dossier, and she was paid by the Democratic National Committee. So Bruce Ohr provides no conflict of interest waivers, an offense punishable with jail time. What can you tell us about this situation, Christopher? Obviously, there was a lot of omissions, whether it be the FBI omitting information to the FISA court that the Democrats were paying for that dossier, or Bruce Ohr, #3 guy at the Department of Justice, doesn't tell anybody that his wife is actually doing the dossier work for Fusion GPS.
Every single bit of this onion we've peeled back has looked worse and worse, and the people who are involved have been trying to hide it. Simpson, the founder of Fusion GPS, originally said in August 2017 he had no contact with anyone at the DOJ. It turned out that wasn't true. He had contact with Bruce Ohr. He said he knew Bruce Ohr separately through Steele. Turns out he may not have. Turns out that he employed Bruce's wife, Nellie. Turns out he was paying her. And if you look at the records which we pulled for 2014, 2015, and 2016, all of which should have listed this, it's not in there. There's no inclusion of Fusion GPS paying a salary, which is, by every lawyer we've spoken to, would have been required. Now, what's dangerous here, too, for Bruce, who could be in a lot of trouble over here, he could be facing criminal penalties, is he wasn't even assigned to this case when he would have had the chance to recuse himself. From everything we understand, he took this dossier and put it in front of the FBI of his own volition. He didn't recuse himself. He didn't say anything like that. And he didn't list the name of Fusion GPS like he should have. That's punishable if he just didn't include the information, and that's all they can say. It's punishable by up to a year in prison. But if he knowingly falsified these documents by not telling the FBI about a conflict that really and truly existed, that's up to 5 years in prison.
So do you think we're going to see accountability then, Christopher? That's what everybody wants to know. I mean, there was obviously wrongdoing here at the top of the FBI and in front of the FISA court and at the top of the Department of Justice. We're talking right now about Mr. Ohr. You say criminal charges could come?
We don't know exactly why he got demoted at the Department of Justice, but we do know it happened right after it came out that his wife had been being paid by an outside source that brought a conflict of interest, and he brought that conflict of interest into the FBI. That seems pretty clear-cut, and the FBI is obviously onto it. A head like his could definitely roll, and I think he will face consequences right now. He's got Republicans in the executive and the legislature and the public saying, what's going on here? There's a lot of pressure, but if it will go higher than that, that remains remains to be seen.
We're going to get the James Freeman. We're going to get the Michael Horowitz Inspector General report.
Right.
A new updated report in the next couple of weeks. I think some of these people are being reassigned and fired because their hands are dirty based on this inspector report that we haven't seen.
Well, it's just on what we've seen so far in terms of how the Hillary Clinton email investigation was handled. It would appear that this report is something to fear for a lot of the top staff at the FBI and the Justice Department. Chris, I'm wondering if you have a sense of what we can expect when that report comes out.
Well, the report's originally looking at the handling of the Clinton email case and all of these things that happened in the lead up to the election. So there's a lot of investigations going on right now at the FBI. How did they handle the Trump case? How did they handle the Clinton case? Meanwhile, they're investigating themselves and they're investigating the executive. People are worried at the FBI about what this IG report's going to say, and it's certainly not looking like it's going to look good for the FBI. The Inspector General's job is to sniff out these things. We already know that the IG has found massive mistakes with the FBI. For example, the IG is who pulled up that the FBI hadn't even found the classified emails that were marked C in Hillary Clinton's email stash they had. Really embarrassing mistakes, and I think you're going to see more embarrassing mistakes exposed soon.
And Chris, what you hear from people online, everyday folks, the left always talk about how President Trump has damaged the reputation of law enforcement. But people look at the handling of the Hillary Clinton investigation and this basically abuse by the FBI and the Justice Department.
They exonerated her before the interview.
Right, and what was going on with the FISA warrant and the use of the Christopher Steele dossier. But then they look at the shooting down in Florida and the fact that somebody on YouTube alerted the FBI that somebody by the exact name with the exact spelling was making threats online, and the FBI just nothing came of it, quite frankly. They looked into it and said we couldn't really identify the identity of the person. That's what makes people upset. You've got a mishandling of these giant national investigations and then a mishandling of this, that ultimately this guy walked into a school and shot a bunch of students and teachers.
17 people dead.
And Dagan, it's really interesting to see the Democratic Party attacking the Republican Party as often as they are for besmirching law enforcement. Remember, the Democratic Party tried to hang a picture of pig-headed police officers shooting black males in the halls of Congress just 2 years ago, and it was a big problem here. The Republicans, I think, and a lot of normal Americans, to your point, have a right to question the FBI here. They're the law enforcement agency. They work for the executive. They should be held by the rule of law. And with the Trump administration and with the Hillary Clinton emails, maybe they didn't play fairly. Now, to be fair to them, they're drinking from a fire hose here with threats and with mental disturbances and all the kinds of things.
Right.
But figuring out why this case of someone, it's the perfect storm. Someone who was identified as an ill person, someone who members of the school administration were afraid of and said was dangerous, then turning out to come true, and the FBI knew about it. When they get up to the podium and say, please report mental illness, please report threats, you have to wonder, where do these reports go?
Yeah, well, there were obviously mistakes made as far as what Dagan's talking about, before this guy actually committed the murder that he did. There were signals there. But the other stuff, in terms of the FISA abuses and the FBI collusion at the top of the FBI, that wasn't an accident. That stuff was done because they wanted to do what they wanted in terms of their own ideology. That wasn't an accident.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Christopher, good to see you, sir. Thank you so much.
Good to see you.
Christopher Bedford. Remember, watch Sunday Morning Futures this weekend, 10 a.m. Eastern, live on Sunday. I will be sitting down with Attorney General Jeff Sessions. We're back in a minute.